and my audio was not. Wonderful. Welcome to the Reinventing the Tattoo Thursday Night Fundamentals with Kire. That is me. Tonight we're going to be going over the Fibonacci sequence, or the golden ratio, and its importance with tattooable images and compositions. For those of you who do not know me, I am out of Western Massachusetts, first-year tattooer, and I'm here to teach everybody what has been freshly been put into my brain from my apprenticeship, which is the basic fundamentals of art and tattooing as far as compositions go. So with that being said, let's get started. I'm just going to screen share from my iPad, so just give me a second here. Screen share. I've been super excited to do this ever since I started really understanding it. And this took me quite some time to really understand it, and not only to understand it, but to try and explain it in a fundamental way. And that is understanding the golden ratio. And the golden ratio is such a vast subject. Like, you could write books on it and chapters on it and talk about it for hours on end. And as I mentioned, that there have been books written about it. I will mention who it was and everything, but first we'll talk about who it was that created the Fibonacci sequence, and that was Martin Ohm. Okay, so Martin Ohm was the first to discover the Fibonacci sequence, or golden ratio, or what is called in Greek phi, meaning, basically the grand solution to solving proportional problems. And so the Fibonacci sequence is the sum of the two numbers before it. So as everybody knows, 1 + 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, and 2 + 3 is 5, and so on and so forth. But we're not going to get too crazy on the mathematics side of it. I just want everybody to understand what it is and why it's a thing, because that wasn't what was taught to me in my apprenticeship. It was more of just this is the golden ratio to use when you're building, filigree or your proportions, or just coming up with composition in general. It was never really explained to me as to why it worked. And I hope to do that for you guys today. So it says here that the Greeks developed the golden ratio to better express the difference between any two numbers in the sequence. But today we'll be focusing really on the shapes. And you can really find the Fibonacci sequence in any form, shape. This is the Divine Proportion, published by Luca, please forgive me on this last name, Pacioli, I think. So him and Leonardo Da Vinci, who created the illustrations for this book, came up with this book to explain the divine proportion and the way that it works. You can see examples of it in this G that's right here. Okay, so you obviously see that image that I showed you earlier. Okay, and in one of Leonardo da Vinci's sketches that he illustrated for this book specifically, it narrates the proportional given and why it all works out. So basically stating that if you cut anything in half, it has obviously the same proportion of it together, as you can see here. Okay. In this book, Mr. Luca writes of mathematical and artistic proportion, especially the mathematics of the golden ratio and its application of art and architecture. Some geometric solids, such as the dodecahedron, which is the one that's up on that top right-hand corner, have inherent golden ratios in their dimensions and spatial positions of their intersecting lines. And like I said, other examples of that are within that little G there. So I wanted to bring up this painting here, which is obviously by Leonardo. And I want it to be already painted in your head as to what you're looking for when I'm talking about this tonight, okay? So if I lay this star over it, I want you to already witness what is happening, okay? See how everything is lining up? See how perfectly they're lining up? And Leonardo painted this image with the golden ratio in mind so that he could prove its existence. And even if we got rid of this, you can still find your own triangles. That's pretty much the shape we're going to be looking for today. And I hope tonight I actually can continue to knot with the open layers, because that's been my problem lately. Bam. Perfect. Absolutely. Isn't that just cool? I'm sorry. Yeah, it's really cool. Here again. Like it's all lining up perfectly. And you can find these shapes anywhere. And by shapes, I mean triangles. To me, the triangles are the pinnacle shape that measures out golden ratio and the golden ratio formula to a perfect T. And here, I thought this was not going to be a math class. Well, you know, we can't all win sometimes. So we're going to get 3 seconds of math, guys. Okay, this is how it's explained of this sequence, which is that numbered sequence that I read out before. 1 + 1 is 2, + 1 is 3, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's the sequence that is kept in mind as to why this golden ratio works. Stating that these two shapes, gosh, lost again. These two shapes together equal this one big shape. Then these two shapes together match this shape. That's it. Okay, proportionally, that's how the world works. And in art, it is our job to make our own original artwork, but at the same time to replicate what is already upon this realm of existence, what we see on everyday life, our nature, and all that fun stuff. So if I were to bring up this star that's here, okay, and you already see that I have it mapped out, okay, I color-coded my 1s, the 2s, and the 1, 3. Okay, this is as far as this math is going to go today. Okay, so clearly it's already stated that if this is 1 + 1, then it's going to equal 2, which is this here. Now 2 + 1, which is one more of these, is 3. But now you can tell me, Kire, this isn't a triangle. You're absolutely right. But if I make this shape, and then this shape, oh my Lord, isn't that fun? I love it. So this is what I want to bring to your attention, okay? This is what was brought to my attention while researching for this class. Proportions. How can I find proportions? How can I stop staring at these references for just finding these nuances and I can just make them up on my own? How can I do that? This is how. Understanding how your proportions work, what defining shapes to look for, not only in your composition, right? So not only in the sphere that I make, but the world that I paint around it. Okay? Because that's a more confusing part about things, especially in tattooing, is you have like a deltoid here, and somebody's like, all right, I want a skull and rose. Okay, so you got the skull figured out, but where am I going to put that rose to make it look well enough to fit that arm, to fit that body part, to have it make sense and have it be a readable image? This is how. This is the start of it. Okay. And you can even say to yourself, all right, well, tell me what you mean. This is what I mean. All right. So you can think of proportions in this way as far as placing the body and placing your elements on the body in this manner, but at the same time, taking the muscle groupings like that is mentioned in Fit and Flow in the Reinventing the Tattoo canon into account. Okay, so within these margins, you can make your composition in the way that needs to be, okay? And it'll still make sense, okay? So I'm going to bring up some examples of some tattoos that follow this parameter. And I delved up the equation a little more, so I continue to make the equation for it. But here's your star here, right? It's your little starting point. But I want you to look at the image as a whole. So I'm going to back it out a little bit. Okay. See where the owl lines up here? And then the wing, and then the other wing, triangle. Okay. It's found everywhere. Where the wing ends, to where the foot starts, to where the snake starts, and then back again. Triangles. Okay. Another one. Middle of the wing, right? Snake again. Second foot, back. It's everywhere. Everywhere. Okay. Again, another example, if you're still not thinking that, this isn't the way that it is, or you're confused. Again, another piece follows the same exact rule. Okay. Turn it this way so you can see a little bit. Okay. You know what? I got one. Or one for like 6. This. See? Happens easily right here. Done. It is the way of making vast proportions and for understanding your composition, for not having to worry about where to place everything, just worrying about how to place it there. Okay. Another example. I got to watch this tattoo get done in Gettysburg, and I saw it immediately. Okay.
You want to watch the 2 towers?
Right there. Again, here. The way these proportions all line up, this is how it is done. It doesn't have to follow just this giant star, even though you can still see that it does work still. It's crazy. So, as far as fit and flow go, we're looking for more of these shapes. Okay. More of an S curve, C curve, and straights. Even though there aren't many straights in here, there's very few. They still exist in tattoos. Okay. Well, Kire, you just taught us all about triangles. What the heck are you showing us these swirly swirls for? Ha ha. Oh my goodness. Guess what? They're everywhere. Isn't it just wild? Okay. Do you see how this works? Even Jeff Gogwe in his filigree YouTube tutorial states that what you should be looking for are triangles at the ends of your points. Why? Because of the golden ratio, because that's just how it works. Because of the Fibonacci sequence, because of phi. Even if we did this here, still works. Fantastic. Now, I'm going to go back to that Leonardo painting. Just amazing. Even, make sure I'm on the right one. I won. Even the shadows he creates are just on point. They're so perfect. It's just astounding. okay, for his time especially. In like the 1500s, I don't get how somebody could have been this smart about things. And at this point, I'm just fangirling, but I really want to make it clear why these are so important. It doesn't matter what you're making, okay? It still applies to everything. From the drapery to the drop shadows to the hand here being just the best at the triangle. It's astounding. And it's what I hope you can understand today as I read off this quote from Leonardo da Vinci. There are three classes of people: those who see when they are shown, and those who do not see. I hope I helped you a little bit along this way see exactly what this golden ratio is and why it's so important. This chapter, we're really going to be delving into more of this as I trickle on. We'll be doing acanthus leaves. We'll be focusing on scrolls, all of the swirls, and all of the C curves and S curves, because this is important with tattooing. These are the only shapes that should be existing within your tattoos because of how the body is shaped. And your first direction in that matter is understanding the sequence, understanding that there is a divine way of placing your tattoos, placing your composition, understanding how the body flows and moves. But your first step is your basic shapes, which is this here. Okay. With that, I think I'm done talking to myself. I'll start letting some people in, because it's all fun because you guys are listening, but really I'm just talking to myself, which I do anyway. But this is more when it's to a screen. I'm just staring at myself in the mirror, technically. God. Okay, let's let some people in here. We're working on some smoke today. Not so much focusing on sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once here. Not so much focusing on the flame or your subject matter, but I really want to emphasize on the smoke part, because I think this is just a fun start to this chapter, just getting really free and flow, and I don't concentrate so much on values, but more on composition and the way that this smoke is flowing. That's what I want to be focused on right now. Okay, copy. I am from this generation, and I swear I really don't know how to use computers at times. It's astounding that I've gone this far. Let's see. Down. And okay, I'm ready to let people in. We are go. So I am going to do this the same way that it's done on the Monday night exercises, where we're going to make 4 small thumbnails first, just to get ourselves warmed up. I really want everybody to start using their shoulders, elbows, and wrists more often in the jobs that they are required in. These are what these thumbnails are for, and can be helped for. When I started my Monday night exercises, I had a tough time understanding what thumbnails were, because I wanted to make the greatest compositions ever to show off, when really thumbnails are just supposed to look awful. In my opinion, that's, if you want to sum it up in a sentence, they're supposed to look awful. They're supposed to just get the idea out of your head and onto your paper or your iPad or anything like that. So that way you can start rendering or actually making a composition from that point. And if you want, make a star underneath your composition to help you out with this, if you think that's helpful to you. So let's see what we got. Got some couple people joining. Let them connect. All right. Hello, everybody.
Hey there.
Welcome to Reinventing the
Hello.
Tattoo. How is everybody? How's everybody doing today?
We're doing good here. Is our camera disabled?
A little bit, yeah. But
Okay.
so is Kyle's, but that's okay.
I'm setting mine up right now.
Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello. How's everybody doing today? How's the tattoo session?
We're cranking away here, and I'm just thinking about like how I might like apply what you've been saying in terms of proportion here. And one thing that I think just a lot of this stuff happens automatically, as you sort of suggested, where if you're just doing a large scale, nicely flowing design, it's going to probably end up landing on those proportions. And so, like on the human body, for example, the size of the bicep and the size of the deltoid are not the same. It's kind of like a 2-to-3 sort of ratio. And then you come down to the forearm and you've got a 5, and so on and so forth. So you've got some of those ratios just built into the most basic way that we're constructed.
Yeah, that's one of the pinnacle things that I definitely wanted to show everybody when I learned this. I was like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense now. It's so much easier now. Wow. It's a crazy thing when you start learning different aspects of the art, especially in your younger years. It's like a light bulb went off in your head. You're like, oh my gosh, the world is so much clearer now. That's awesome. Hey, Kyle, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a little while, buddy.
Yeah, I've been a little busy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. I'm glad you can join us. I was hoping on my ride home, I was like, man, I hope Kyle joins this time. I wonder what he's been up to. That's awesome, man. Glad you can make it.
Yeah, me too.
So I am working on my second one now. I'm keeping these. I have a very tiny iPad. So me already working in this like inch of radius, I'm going to get these, kind of mapped out quickly here. But I'm trying to focus here on the fluidity that I'm making with my marks and how each, little fluid shape interacts with the other one. Because it's so easy to make smoke like just one squiggle and call it a day. But if you really want to focus on the way that proportions are going to be working and what is going to make sense to you, that is the goal. Cardo, how you feeling? You've been getting, chugged away on.
You know what? It doesn't feel the greatest, but I'm so excited to be here doing this with Guy that the pain is nothing.
There has not been a flinch.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Pretty exciting times.
I bet. I can't wait to see it done. I've been waiting all day to see updates, and I just saw before I came on it's looking great. It's really chugging along.
I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can say that too.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You were talking about your younger years of tattooing. I've always followed Guy's work. So like I said, to be here and getting this done and like watching you while you're doing your thing too, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty radical to be part of this. So we're excited today.
It's funny, in my younger years of tattooing, I actually thought I knew what I was doing.
Looking back on it now, what do you think, Guy?
Oh man, tattooing is challenging. Just when you think you got it figured out, something comes back healed and you're like, what did I do wrong there? I mean, it healed nicely and it looked great fresh, and it's lackluster. What can I do about that? And okay, I can hit it again, but if I'm just layering lackluster on top of lackluster, it'll be nice and sturdy. It won't fall out. But there's something I'm not getting about color, for example. So, and of course we're all guilty of that. to some extent or another. But I definitely feel like I'm on this journey with you guys. You know what I mean? Just trying to figure this thing out.
Yeah, I mean that it's always going to be a learning experience, isn't it? It's always going to be, no matter what, till the day you die as an artist, you're going to be learning something new every day. And it's such an amazing experience so far for me personally. I absolutely am in love with the journey that I'm on currently. It's the only art is the only thing that is given back to me 100% of the time.
Isn't that pretty cool?
Well, it's investing in yourself. You know what I mean? So it's almost a guaranteed return because the person you're investing in isn't going to run off on you.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
You know, and every time you make a small deposit into the bank of art, so to speak, you know, do a nice little sketch over breakfast or whatever. Each and every act like that is sort of a deposit. You know, it's adding to the amount of wealth that's in your overall gamut of experience.
Yes, absolutely. It's you're gathering, and what I've learned as well from this is that you, as an artist, you start to gather small little indications, and then you get the bigger picture once you kind of get those all together, like your fundamentals, right? When you start learning those basic spheres, cylinders, cubes, you can then move up to understanding much larger, you know, compositions, so to speak, because you already understand where those fundamentals lay. Which is why I think fundamentals are just so important, not just for the learning artist, but for everybody. So I really like this bottom one that is here. I'm not focusing on the composition of it. I'm just focusing on the way that it's shaped. And I'm starting to like this one. Kyle, I know I'm moving pretty fast, so ignore me, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Got a couple sketches going on. Just trying to get the basic form of it going.
All right. Can I see?
See if I can bring it up for you.
Let me see there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just like really loosely blocking in some shapes for it in some direction.
Let me see.
Kira, would you mind highlighting them or pinning them?
I thought I did spot. He's spotlit. Oh, is it because I'm sharing? That's why. That's why we
There you
can't
go.
see. There we go. All right. You know what I've noticed about you, Kyle, is that you like to block in your shapes, the kind of similar to the way that Ricardo does, where he'll take like a full value and block in that shape rather than just sketching on the outsides of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've noticed that quite often with your work. So I just want to point that out so that you can recognize it. So later on, when you start making your own compositions, you're like, maybe this is the way that I do things.
Yeah.
So
All right.
definitely,
Thank you for that.
yeah, of course, definitely keep it up. I like that. I like the way it's going. All right. Are you thinking about doing some Keller with it? Or are you keeping it just a value study?
Might just do value.
Yeah, I always ask that question. I sound like I'm consulting a client. Is this going to be color or black and gray?
Gotta get in the habit of it now.
It's crazy. All right, so that means I got to start practicing it. I always say that I'm going to take my compositions and move them to colored pencil, but this actually might be the one. I might actually put the time aside and do the full colored pencil rendering. I've been messing with some smoke on the side too, just to see if I can give any tips about it. I think the most confusing part about doing smoke is where to place the value, because smoke has that almost transparency to it, to whatever is behind it. So that's what I've noticed is the toughest part about this. So I'm saying that so everybody can kind of keep that in mind when they're doing theirs. And I only say this not to like call anybody out or anything, but because I noticed this within myself, so I hope that maybe you could notice it too if this happens to you, and then delegate with it if it ever comes up, which it may for me. All right. So let's see here, and I'm gonna post up that Jeff Bugway video when we're done here, so everybody can check that out if they haven't. It's a great. I've watched that video maybe like gotta be 50 times. It was very much drilled into me with my apprenticeship, and I'm definitely going to be sharing it, so hopefully everybody can see it as well. He basically focuses on dollar bills. If you look on the back of dollar bills, they have some filigree there, and he kind of just redraws them on a piece of paper using a highlighter and some Sharpie markers, and kind of teaches you how you can practice those shapes as well through that. And I think it's a very informative video, and I think everybody should be watching it at least a dozen times. So let's see. I'm gonna drop our opacity down. And
Yeah.
Just kind of look good at the moment.
And I'm doing these as solid black shapes, so I'm just trying to fill them, smooth them out, darken them, and sharpen them.
notice too that when I make any sort of filigree or smoke, right, I'll start with that basic shape, S-curve, for example, right? And let's just take this as an example, right? Just make a giant S-curve. I'll actually make a shape like this and then start to make indents to help the fluidity of the smoke shape, right? And they're usually never anything too crazy, but it gives it some sort of texture or movement, extra flair, personality, whatever you want to call it. It's there. So, and usually would end up something like that. That is that. And I love doing these kinds of exercises because there's no harm really in it, right? You can definitely look at a reference, which I think is important to do, is look at reference, especially with how accessible Google is nowadays. Like there's only almost no reason for you to use a reference. And I know that it's so scary to do so because you're like, oh man, like why can't I just draw it from my head? What are you like, this is crazy. But understand this, okay? Manipulate your reference. Don't be manipulated by your reference, okay? So don't focus on every single tiny detail that you see. Look at the main subject that's in it, the overall shape, the small amounts of finite things that you see within that reference that you like, okay? So like if I looked at this smoke here, right? And I actually choose the right layer this time. I'm learning. Okay, I chose this one because I liked the way that that transparency looked. That huge white highlight and then those little tiny indentations right here. Okay, I chose this one because I loved how crazy it was. Completely opposite than the other reference. I liked how crazy the composition was, how guessing it is, how challenging it is. But I'm not going to copy this straight hand to hand unless I'm doing a value study. And I know I've talked about this so many different times, but we're going to talk about it again because it was such a struggle for me and is such a struggle for so many artists nowadays because they see how accessible Google is and any reference is. So hunting for it is not, hard.
Familiar with Tim Bieber?
Oh, I love.
So let's go back to that.
Never seen some of those. Yeah, I don't know how to describe them. Even like simple, either simple silhouettes of human shape, like doing like zombie type.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, he did a lot of crazy tree stuff too.
Yeah.
So I think we'll get this to an almost value study before we sign up, because I'm kind of cruising through this. Probably because I did like 4 smoke pieces before I did this, so I'm a little bit at an advantage, so I apologize. But I just wanted to make sure that I got this subject kind of down. Well, not down, but, you know, understanding in the simplistic of ways to help.
Are you possible to work on a project with you at some point soon?
Such as,
I don't know, anything that you'd be up for? Anything that's to do with
yeah, I mean, if you can ever find somebody who wants to get tattooed by both of us,
Okay.
you know, that would definitely be a good project.
Okay.
And just, you know, work through every step of it.
Absolutely. I'd love that.
So before I insert any values into this, I always gonna do the Kire thing, the Kire Thursday night fundamental thing. Where's my light coming from? Where's my little light bulb gonna be? Okay. Since it's I want to make it a lit cigarette, right? Have a little bit of ash hanging, and I could technically still play with this because there's not many diverse shapes happening within this, even though they are still happening. But you see how this section's kind of empty, so something could be there. But this shape here is doing good, but it needs a little something here. Yeah, we'll do that. Something of that realm. And I think the whole point of my classes as well is to have you guys start using your own, you know, smart brains to troubleshoot situations like I just did, right? Something was definitely off that I didn't like, right? And even though it's not the greatest now, still, something was still off. So I checked it by just making triangles in it, right? And then decided that, you know, there wasn't anything crazy happening here, and that maybe that was the solution to the problem. So troubleshooting is very important and will give you a lot of confidence, especially in your early years. Go. So I'm gonna have my light bulb from down here. It's gonna point up. Okay. And I'm gonna do color because that's what I do. I never want to turn my fundamental classes into a color theory class, but I like talking about art, so bear with me. Been learning about this, what is called a Zorn palette, which is limiting your palette to only crimson reds, primary blues, and yellow ochre, and that's it. It's very challenging. So we'll try that. Maybe no teal today. That's not going to happen.
What? No teal.
It may. I'm trying to travel away from it. Okay, we're trying to travel into different families. I know it's becoming a trademark, but you know, we may have to put it on the back burner just to learn a little bit. And but we'll be back. We'll be back. But I just say that now. Watch, when I turn this in next week, it's going to be loaded with teal.
Yeah.
I just keep coming back to it. It's like I can't leave. But then I look at how beautiful it is. I'm like, you know, maybe a little bit here and here, and then next you know, it's half the composition. It's like, we did it again.
Well, teal is one of those colors that does not fall out of the skin.
Good point.
That's good to know.
That's one of the things that even lasers have trouble with.
Really.
Oh, see, when you get tattooed by me, it's never gonna go away.
When you do those forced face tattoos on people, you use that dark teal. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. So I have this. I always talk about this brush too. I have to figure. This is a Jason question. I have to figure out how I can put like a drive that everybody, all the apprentices can go to and just take the stuff. Because I really want to put this brush up here, even though it's a very confusing brush to start to manipulate. It's very close to a colored pencil, and it's great for blending and learning how to blend. Just throwing that out there. All right, so we're gonna use our crimson reds and primary blues, but we'll use a Fido blue. And the purple is kind of, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's another one of those like Fido purples.
Is it Halo or something?
Yeah, something like that. I stopped calling colors for what they are, like the actual names of them, because you could, I've learned that you could look at another artist, especially if they're really into color, and say crimson red, and they may think of like fire engine red. It's just, it's all different. So I just started calling it like warmer to cooler versions of whatever I'm looking for. I don't know if that's silly, or muted version of whatever I'm looking for.
Well, and even from one brand to the next, you're going to see a big temperature difference, and it's any of those names does not guarantee a certain hue and chroma.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm going to start doing the whole, yeah, it's like a muted red, fancy with it, All right. So these are our palettes here. So we'll make families based off of these palettes, even though like this has nothing to do with the color smoke. We're going to make it fun. Okay. All right. Kyle, do you have anything to show? Have you gone a little farther?
Yeah, I've got a squiggle.
Let me see your squiggle. Hold on one second. Let me pin you here. Spotlight for everyone. Let me see your little squiggle. Okay. All right. You want to do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
Throw a star underneath your layers, like all the layers, throw a star right underneath it. Do you have a star brush? If you don't,
I do not. I'm going to have to draw one.
that's perfectly fine. It could be a wonky star.
Sure.
I like wonky stars, so it's good. And
Very
then
wonky.
and then do me a favor and tint your background just so I can see your composition just a little bit better.
Yeah, let me turn it down.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right. Okay. So I want you to tell me what you're noticing right now.
Kind of lines up with it a little bit.
Okay. Lines up with it a little bit, right? But that top left-hand corner and that bottom right-hand corner are missing.
Very empty.
So what I've learned, right? And so I'm going to unspotlight you real quick and I'm going to help you out here, or try and my best to help you out here. And this is something that I did a lot, and I can even show you later, Kyle. I'll send you some pictures of it. I have a huge notebook, just filled with filigree. And my problem with filigree, from telling you, Kyle, like a good year of my apprenticeship was, let me get rid of all this, was when I would do filigree, right? Everything would be too straight. Like there would be a distinct straight line going right through it. I would start with, let me just go to a different brush too. I'm sorry, Kyle, give me a second. Here we go.
Take your time, you're good.
I would start with like an S curve, right? And then I would start building off of it. But then what would happen is that I would build so much off of it that this like distinct line would be happening, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then it would make the subject look stagnant, right? So it would completely defeat the purpose of what I was trying to do. And I would get so frustrated, so angry, because I would start my composition correctly with a straight S curve, but for some reason, it would still end up like super straight still. So to avoid that from
You know what
happening,
though?
go ahead.
That's just proof that you had a good enough filter to be able to notice the fact that it wasn't sitting right. And that's the thing that we're trying to cultivate here. Now,
Yes.
having a system to get it right every time, that's a nice idea. But even more important is the ability to be able to see when and why it might not be.
Yes, exactly. And it took probably until the second notebook before I noticed that that was the problem. But to help you out, Kyle, definitely, if you want to start off with an S curve, just and then throw a star right in underneath it to focus on that underlay, that may help you a little bit. But for as your composition, I love the way it's going. It's very Kyle. It's very your style. And I really enjoy it. And I can't wait to see how it's going to continue as we continue here for a little bit.
Thank you.
But I hope that helps a little bit for you.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're talking about.
Hey, that's what I hope is happening. So let's see here. Let's continue with my tangents. So I'm gonna start all my background with not teal. We'll go with like muted purple. A little bit of what I have been calling Oklahoma Thunder, which has been my maybe new favorite color. It is what you get when you mix blue, caramel, and yellow ochre. If we're gonna be technical. Switch here. Let's see. And focus on where our light source is coming from, because that's why I started doing light bulbs, was because I was very lost in what was looking pleasing rather than what was looking correct, which is, there's a fine difference. I didn't know that for a long time. So let's see. And I went to the Gettysburg Convention this past weekend, which was an absolute blast. I went with Ricardo and Jason, and it was pretty cool to see all the people that were witnessing, you know, reinventing and actually recognized reinventing. It was actually pretty wild.
Yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun communicating with people and like listening to some feedback, some positive feedback on the way that they like to tune in to some of the videos and listen to what we have to say about sharing our approach with art. Like I was saying a second ago about your developed sense of what you like to see in your work, or being able to dissect it in a way that you can kind of correct it.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
which is another thing about, you know, being in your younger years, because you really pay attention to who you are as an artist. And I say this probably every episode, but that's what this is all about, to figure out what works best for you and what gets you to the goal that you want to achieve for yourself, right? And there's so many different artists that want different things, and they're all individual. It's crazy. Like Kyle here is a completely different artist than I am, but him and I could still do amazing things together if we chose to collab on something or something cool like that. And that's what this is all about. And that's why I love conventions so much. And that's why I was so grateful that everybody, or I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people were coming up to us and being like, hey, it's these guys. I've seen you guys. You guys are real people. Like, oh my gosh, yes, we are. It's absolutely wild. So it's a whole community in itself.
I think that was one of the things that I talked to them about too, is like trying to get over this moment that they have where they want to tune in. Like, it's best to jump on into some of the Zoom drawing classes with us and share with us your approach so we can talk about it. and we can kind of like, share ideas, share concepts, share approaches. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I just can't wait to see what this is all, where it's all going to go. This is just the beginning for this. It's already brought so much greatness to it.
Very exciting to see.
I do want to say, Kyle, your microphone is great.
Oh, thank you. I have like a nice one that I invested in.
That's a nice one. I like that. It's weird that that's a compliment that I'm going to give to a person, but yeah, man, that's a nice microphone. I can definitely hear you much better than usual. It's fantastic. It's like when Ricardo got those like Bluetooth headphones that like changed his whole game.
Yeah.
And I think we have Bruno here.
Hey, all right.
Bruno.
He's on
Listen,
it.
no, I just
Hey guys,
How you doing, man?
how's it going, guys? Good to be here. Yeah, I just got a chance to park. I've been listening all along. Super interesting class here, like super helpful. I feel like I learned a lot of new tricks, and
Thanks, Bruno.
it's an interesting approach. Yeah, no, I love the way that you explained it.
Thanks. I've been practicing in a mirror how to explain it to people for the past like 4 days. Look what you did. I'm so proud of you, Bruno. Hold on, everybody's gonna see this.
No, I just did something really quick just to kind of test it out, and just playing with my wonky star, kind of helping myself line up the flow that I'm gonna have going here. I've never tried this out, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Are you noticing? What are you noticing as a helpful thing for you?
Like right off the bat, I can see how it just kind of like distributes the different shapes, in an ideal way that like it's a balanced like yeah, it's like it's balanced, thanks to the guidance of the star in this particular case, just kind of trying to line things up in a triangle. But I just started experimenting with it, and I saw how you were using the triangles to like make sure that things are not a little bit off, and I'm gonna start doing a little bit of that.
It's a cool way to check your proportions and your composition without like freaking out on yourself. You know what I mean? Like because that's really what you freak out on most, is that something looks off and you don't know what it is. And I'm telling you, 95% of the time, it's because there's not enough triangles.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Yep. Definitely.
Next time you draw.
No, it's never gonna be the same.
It's not, I swear. I was telling Ricardo when I made this revelation for myself that I'm telling you, as soon as it clicked in my head that this was what it was, I looked up at my TV screen. I was listening to music, and there's a thumbnail of just like a photograph of birds, and there's just triangles everywhere.
Triangles.
What is happening right now? So
Awesome.
it's the greatest thing that I think I can mention about being an artist, is that you start seeing the world completely different, especially when you start delving into colors and like composition and structures, or like what Jesse Smith does with the Blob, how you can just walk around and see a smudge on the wall and be like, oh my God, that's the greatest pony I've ever seen in my life. I can't wait to make that when I get home. So that's my whole thought process on that, I guess. I'm just very elated on this subject, so I can't wait to see what comes of it. So back to me talking to myself about colors. my biggest problem I think that I have with them is that I always like to put cooler colors in front when that's not the case. So I've decided to use my lightest dark, which is what I've talked about in my last subject, as my most saturated tone when I do my color. And right now, for flames and whatnot, in any composition recently, I've started to map out the values in this way where I'll put my terminator line in here. So like anything that's here or like the darkest points, just to start mapping out values. And then I'll take my lightest dark, whatever that's going to be, and start applying them in, because it's still part of the dark family, but it's still mapping the way to the rest of the composition, right? So that is what I've been doing. And I just got hired at this new shop, and this new boss that I have is learning very quickly that I don't do anything else but draw. So they had me, they needed like some information from me to put on their website, and they're like, we try to be very informative, so we kind of need like a bio of yourself. So I just put a short bio, how I really like color, and that's about it. And and then they were like, well, we kind of need like something else, like just what do you like to do outside of tattooing and stuff. And it took me a while. I was like, wait a minute, what do I do? I mean, I paint, does that count? It's a different medium. And they all just looked at me with the complete blank stares. I'm just like, man. And then they're like, we're gonna help you find a hobby. I'm like, well, I mean, I have a hobby, it's painting.
But other than painting, drawing.
Yeah, drawing. I like colored
But
pencils.
other than drawing, tattooing.
Like I just pick anything, it's just write it down. I'll do it. And I was like, oh, I like Star Wars. And then they're like, we can work with that. I was like, okay, cool. Oh man. So I love it.
That's awesome. I love it that you just can't get enough. That's a good place to be.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's not a burnout thing too. I just generally enjoy it. I think it's so much fun.
It's all about the fun.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
giving you energy.
It does. That's why my reinventing banner says learning never exhausts the mind. Because in moments like these, when I learn about triangles, and I've been on like a kick for like the whole week. Coffee, what? Triangles, that's what.
Triangles your new drug of choice.
That is, I completely understand what Ricardo has been saying for the past like 6 months.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's right, triangles. And before we end our session today, which will be in 20 minutes, we'll give ourselves 20 minutes. We're gonna go back to that Leonardo Da Vinci painting, and I want everybody to look at it again, because oh my God. And I learned about that painting maybe 5 minutes before I logged on to here, and I was like, what? Just the fact that somebody in the 1500s was able to make a composition solely based on the golden ratio and nail it, I just mind blown. I'm
So,
I'm so glad that you did this. Sorry, go ahead.
There's another Da Vinci painting that I wish I could give you the title, but they've only got like 17 total or something like that, so it shouldn't be that hard to find. Yeah, but it's like a whole, I think, a adoration of the baby Jesus sort of scene, and I've seen that one broken down with the same star, and it's a much more complex scene. You can see how he used it to to lay all these characters out harmoniously.
Really? Hold on a second. I'm gonna. If anybody can tell, I have a small obsession with Leonardo Da Vinci, but it's a. I'm gonna look that up right now and pull it up.
Yeah, let's just say that this wasn't something he only did once, right?
Oh no, he solely based his life around this. Like even with the Last Supper, you can do this. That's why he made illustrations for this book. It's absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
That's why I'm so glad you did this. I was really, wanting to get more familiar with this, the golden ratio. And there's a good reason why, Da Vinci was using it so often. And not just him, but I've heard that, it was also used in like the construction of buildings back in the day.
Absolutely, coliseums and whatnot. Absolutely. Yeah.
Just like,
And I think it's a cool thing to mention as well that when I was talking to you guys about this kind of stuff, making sure I knew what I was talking about. I put the triangles over your compositions, right? And you guys didn't even know that there was that much involved with it. You were just naturally doing it. So it proves even more that naturally the world really just revolves around pleasing points like this, because truly you're just trying to make the eyes feel better, right? If you look at a composition that just does not look great, right? Everything's all mixed and matched and it shouldn't belong where it should. Your eyes are going to have a very tough time dealing with what's around you. But if you just lay those proportions in a much more organized way with using this system, whether you know it or not, you're doing it. It's absolutely crazy. And I think that's going to be the phrase of the day. Absolutely crazy.
it's absolutely bonanza.
It's bonanza. It's hot dog amazing. And I hope everybody can tell that I'm absolutely elated on this subject. I can't wait for this chapter. It's a very good chapter. And hopefully by the time the BYOB happens, we'll be doing fundamentals of color theory. And I actually mean fundamentals. I'm not going to go crazy. But hopefully by then, maybe we'll be on color theory to values. And that will be fun. I'm very excited for that. So
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you would have to say. Like, what would be some good fundamental things to go over having to do with color?
chroma. Stop using super
All right, that's
saturated
fundamental, all
tones.
right?
Yes, you like to call them candy colors.
Yeah.
Yep, chroma for sure. Because if you were to discuss chroma, you can really discuss how you can be building relationships between colors. Like that just stems right into that. Because to understand chroma is to understand why you're using chroma. So it's probably one of my favorite subjects to talk about, and I could talk about it forever. Another big revelation for me in my journey, but that was what seems like forever ago.
Yeah, I thought I knew a little bit about color until I spoke to you.
Oh, stop, Bruno.
For real, you changed the game for me. For real, I am understanding things that I didn't before, and now with that little bit of understanding, I actually can see it. I can see that language that color can have on, like, paintings that I really like. Like the reason why I like it is because all these, like, this color language, these laws of color are applied properly, and so there's this harmony that makes it so attractive. And so yeah.
Absolutely. I just kind of thumbnailed your little piece there, Bruno. Can you show that off there? Oh, let me
Wow.
you again. Oh, I like yours too. Oh my gosh, we're going around the room. Around the room, everybody. All right, start with Bruno. Let me see. I like that. Got some
Yeah.
swirls.
It's nice.
And it was interesting. Thank you. No, it was interesting because, like, for example, I wanted to, like, have a little smoke thing slip this way a little bit, like away from the star, and it just was looking off. And so instead I stretched it out right here to, staying within the triangle, and it worked, So it just proves that like it definitely helps, put things in the right place in a way.
That's so amazing to hear, Bruno.
Thank you, Kire.
I'm so glad that it's so helping you. That's all I want.
Yeah, you're helping me a lot.
Even if you
Great.
took away one sentence from this, that's all I want. Awesome. Okay, let me see, Kyle. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
There
what
you
I'm
go.
talking about, son. Yes, much better.
Nice.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah,
take-
I played around with it, try to get it in all those corners, and then it really filled up.
Wow. Yes. All right. Take away that star for me, please.
Yeah.
I would like to see the composition as a whole. Yes. All right. This reminds me of your calf tattoo. I'm not gonna lie.
You know what? A little bit. Yeah, I see it now.
And this is, I know you've told me this before, that this is the type of style that you really enjoy. And I love to see that you're implementing it in your work right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love the way that you're displaying those values too. Like they're great. None of it's overwhelming. None of it's too too confusing. Like I can see the exit point and entrance point. Like yes, absolutely.
Nailed it.
Nailed
Thank you,
it, Kyle.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's what
Yeah,
I like to see.
I see the, the guidance of the triangles there. Like there's definitely, it's like balanced.
Even if you took that star away, which you did, I can still see triangles that are not implemented by the star.
Yeah, I made sure I went through and just tried to pull out as many triangles, make sure everything was kind of lining up.
Yeah, which I also to mention, right? Also to mention, and sidebar, right? That the triangles, right? That's not the subject here, right? So, because this is what I did, right? When I was first told by a certain somebody that told me to put triangles in, that I just overwhelmed the composition with triangles. They were just everywhere. I was like, this is it? And it's understanding where they have to be placed and understand that it has to be natural, that the triangles are not the subject here, the main point. The main point is the composition. The triangles pave the way, and it's all delves from the golden ratio. Okay, so there's steps to this. The atom size that you should be focusing on is pleasing proportions. Okay, pleasing composition. So don't think like, okay, I feel like something's wrong in this composition, immediately make another triangle. Like don't get all Ricardo about the thing. Just take a step back and understand where it is that the proportions are kind of off, and understand where they have to be placed nicely, but don't immediately gravitate to just a triangle. Okay, it's the golden ratio, not just triangles. So, but absolutely, I'm glad that everybody's taking something away from this. So,
Absolutely.
let me screen share mine. Everybody's actually way more ahead than I am. Jeez, I don't know how that happened. Probably because I was talking everybody's ear off, but that's okay. So, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just playing.
It's coming together though.
Listen, it's not even. I'm honestly more focusing on the color blends of the palette than making it look like smoke. So I'll play around with it and I'll fix it and make a little bit more sense. Maybe add teal. Who knows? Check in next week for the surprise.
I recognize your palette on this piece. Like those are the colors that you like to use a lot. That combo is really nice.
Yeah, for some reason I really like using I like using extreme, warms to like extreme cools. For some reason I like building my bridge of colors from like one end to the other. Like I like going straight across the bridge, where sometimes there's like a module where you can like stick in here, and then another one where you can kind of go this way. But for some reason, I like going all the way across. But I did this in the cylinder class too, where you can in Procreate or Photoshop, you can take your composition, make sure I'm on the right layer. Jesus Christ. Am I? Let's merge that down just to.
Not again.
I know that's like the trend with me is a wrong layer.
Pretty sure that's for everyone.
You're right.
Yeah.
So I take my colors here in Photoshop or in Procreate, turn the saturation all the way down and check my values. Right. Now it makes a little bit more sense. Okay. So now it's not just crazy colors, it's just value scale. And you can see how the value scale is on the side here. They're not just colors. So that super bright red, right? This is a great lesson. That super bright red toned down way more. And what is actually in the forefront is that gross looking yellow ochre. Okay. Isn't that just crazy that the grossest color is actually the brightest in value? That's just mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing. So once again, just sharing information because I think it's cool. But let's me do my little sign off here. I think we had a good session. Everybody's doing really well with theirs. I am so unbelievably proud. I am. I could not be more proud of everybody.
All thanks to you.
I mean, hey, you're the one that's listening and implementing it. I'm just talking to myself to a mirror, technically. So you guys did absolutely phenomenal. And I'm glad that I, studied so hard to try and explain this, and it's actually kind of working. So with that said, thank you guys so much for everything. I really appreciate all you do for me with not only helping me learn these subjects for myself, but getting together with you guys and talking about this and letting me ramble on and all that fun stuff. Thank you, Kyle and Bruno. Thank you so much, Guy and Ricardo, for tuning in tonight on our golden ratio. Next week, we're going to be doing Acanthus leaves, which are one of my favorites to do. We'll be talking way more about Jeff Bogue's little video there, and we'll be kind of doing it in a simplistic way that he does it. Very excited for it. Last but not least, thank you so much to the Horsemen. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to Reinventing the Tattoo. You can download it for free on your app store. Not a bad idea to get the subscribers edition as well. You can get the wonderful canon that Guy has spent many moons writing and is adding to every day. And with that said, everybody, hold on one second. Let me get to the right page. Everybody, this is your time to make your funny voice or sound or face. Thank you guys so much for joining me on my Thursday Night Fundamental. I'm Kire Franklin, and tune in next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for